like 3 hours, I would have liked to do in 2 days, So I hope you understand that we're compressing it, but I'm giving you enough that if you're really keen, when you go home, you can unpack this with God. Because at the end of the day, He knows you better than anyone else. Are you with me? So now what we're going to do very quickly, 60 seconds, is I'm going to get you to ask God to highlight to you 3 things out of both the lists. Okay, so 3 in the being list, 3 in the doing list that He's highlighting to you in this season. Are you with me? So you have 10 things written there, but I want you to ask God, which 3 are you highlighting to me this season of my life? Are you with me? All right, go for it. And then make sure to circle them, and then we'll see what you feel God is showing you. The simplest way to do this is read through them, and the ones that stand out to you, those are the ones. And if you have more than 3, then start comparing them, and you will see that one hits you more than the other. Okay? 3 on each list. What is He highlighting to you this season? Don't try and control this, right? Just let Him highlight it. You already got your 3? No, you don't want to ask. Oh, hey. You got your 3? Cool. So don't judge. There's no right or wrong answer. You're just flowing with God. You're flowing with a good Father. He loves you. He's got the best for you. 3 things. Let Him highlight it. Remember, it's just for this season. It's not for your whole life. Anyone want to yell out something that's you feels highlighted that's surprising you? Yeah. Parenting, being a good mom. Yeah. Cool. Anyone else? Anything?
I highlighted to be outspoken.
Outspoken.
In connection with that is to continue to give hope.
Continue to give hope. Yeah. Anyone else? We'll take one more. Anyone highlighted? You got some?
Yeah, I have highlighted consistent
Yeah.
and encouraging.
Okay.
I thought encouraging came up probably at what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this is important because this is going to give you clues for your current assignment, right? So now we're going to go a bit deeper, okay? So if you didn't get your 3, you can carry this on at home, right? Because God's with you. Is that okay? So we keep moving on. Next thing I want to go into is life's training. Before we go into here, let me tell you something about the gifts and the talents, right? Sometimes God highlights something in your life that you think you are weak at or you don't even know, but He's pulling you in. So I have a friend, her name's Rachel, and Rachel and my friend Josh is actually my friend, Rachel's his wife, they had a baby, and after they had their baby, Rachel was like, man, I don't want to go back to work because I'm loving being a mother. So she started praying like, God, what can we do? What can you do? Because I don't want to go back to work and do a 9-to-5 job. A few days in of praying, she feels God highlighting to her that she should learn how to sew. She's never sewn before, but she knows God is saying, learn how to sew. So she goes and gets some needles, gets thread, and she's like, okay, what am I sewing? And she starts making these pillowcases. And she's really bad at the beginning. So she's watching YouTube videos and learning how to sew, and she makes these pillowcases. And as she's making them, she's getting these ideas, oh, I can sell them on Etsy. You guys know Etsy? And so she starts selling them on Etsy. Anyway, long story short, like within 6 months or maybe 9 months, she ended up having a 6-figure business out of nowhere. Just from that small movement. Are you with me? So when God leads us, He goes crumb by crumb, but we want the whole pie, and usually the pie is going to overwhelm you. But God knows how to get you where He needs to get you. Right? And it wasn't a gift or a talent that she thought was, she's like, I don't even know how to sew. Are you getting what I'm saying? So I'm just putting that out there. So if you're circling things that you're like, that's not my strong point, that means nothing with God, right? Because in your weakness, He's made strong. Okay, next thing, life's training. So I want you to think about 3 of the biggest lessons you have learned in your life. Okay? Through experience. So, for example, maybe you went through a bad relationship. Maybe you've gone through a divorce. Maybe you had a car crash. Maybe you lost a lot of money. Maybe you were betrayed. You were stabbed in the back. Maybe people spread lies about you. Maybe your family disowned you when you followed Jesus. Whatever it is. 3 of your biggest life's training moments, okay? And I want you to write them in a bit of detail. So don't just write that backstabbing thing, right? You want to write the name, what happened, right? A little bit of detail, 3 of them, okay? I'm going to keep throwing out ideas as you're writing this. When I went to New Zealand, I faced a lot of racism, right? I was in 1997. I was one of the 5 or 6 Indians in my school. So that was the first time that someone was telling me that my hairstyle was wrong, my accent was wrong, my color was wrong. I'm like, well, like that was a big moment in my life's training because I had to start learning how to love myself for who I am. Are you with me? So as you're thinking about your life's training is very, very important to God. In the kingdom of God, nothing is wasted. Even the mistakes you made, He uses for His good. I have a friend in Iran. What happened to this guy was when he was in his teenage years, he was in America and he'd run underground raves. You guys know raves, doof, 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 like techno parties, right? And he was dealing pills and ecstasy, all this kind of stuff. And he would hack into firewalls and computer systems, and he had burner phones. Like he knew how to get away from the police and all this stuff. So then he gets saved. He ends up in Iran, and now he's part of an underground church over there. And he's using the same skills that he was using to evade the government there now, except as underground church services. Are you with me? Because in the kingdom, nothing is wasted. So I want you to think of 3 of your biggest life training moments. Now, you may write 5, but see if you can get 3 of them. Maybe you went through a hard pregnancy. Maybe you went through postnatal depression. Maybe you went through a real hard time with separation with your spouse. Maybe it was with your parents, all right? Because you're going all the way back. Maybe it was with your parents. Maybe you were raised by a single parent. Life's training. As I've been doing this for the last 4 or 5 years, I see a lot of patterns where people that have been through abuse or been through mistreatment usually end up moving into something where they help people who are being abused, you know. People who faced injustice suddenly now fight for justice, you know. The pattern. And that lines up with the parable of the log and the speck in your eye, you know. When you've been through something and it's painful, you know how to help someone else with compassion and empathy, you know. So anybody want to share? Life's training. Yeah, do you want to?
Forgiveness.
Yeah.
I mean, I learned early that forgiveness is, as a Christian, you have to forgive or forgive or forgive. That's how I say it. So, I mean, it didn't make sense to me as a kid, but I remember I used to write a lot. So I used to write stuff about forgiveness that I didn't understand. But one of the hardest for me was forgiving my dad. I grew up with my dad, but I had a lot of underlying things that I didn't even know I was holding against him. He died in 2019, but before he died, God took me through a journey where He had to unfold things that I had believed or I had held against my dad without even having a conversation with him. You know, He took me through a journey, and I had to go home and sat down with my dad and spoke to him, and he looked at me and said, I had no idea. So a lot of things I was holding against him was like, I didn't know this was hurting you. I didn't know this person I put in the house hurt you. I didn't know this thing happened. Like, I had no clue. I said, okay, see, that's why I left. I left home at 16. I said, see, that's why I left early. This is why I am the way I am. This is why I break all your rules. Because I was hurt, you know, by the people you were helping. And he felt really bad. He was really broken. he just wished he could fix everything. But even before having that conversation with him, I forgave him.
Yeah.
I forgave him,
Yeah.
and it was good because it was the last time I saw him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else? Do you want to pass the mic? We'll take two more. Maybe you've been through whatever, hard things, or good things. You might have been through some really good things.
This was one of my strongest points in in my younger days when I was a child. And me and my sisters were brought up in an orphanage.
Okay.
Although we had a lot of people, we had everything. You can name it, we had it. But we were not, privileged or anything to be in that state, but we grew up with orphans.
Yeah.
And my younger sister was in FS1, you see, the nursery, while I was in grade 5, and my middle sister was in grade 2. We were in the orphanage, and we were brought up like, you know how the orphans were, cared for each other and loved, but it was a convent. And this was my lifestyle throughout. And that was, I couldn't forget. And that was the main thing that motivated me to be more compassionate and loving towards people who are unloved, as I mentioned in my first point.
Yeah.
And I can still see it in my life, and God's using that as a purpose for me
Yeah.
to love others and to give myself out to others.
Yeah.
But we are blessed today sharing that love. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing was there was a massive surgery that I went through. It was between life and death. And I was boarding a flight when I started bleeding. But no one knew it. And I didn't know that I was going to live again. But as we all know, the strength that we receive, that is, Jesus who is in our life, always lives with us. Nobody can separate his love from us. Until the flight landed, I had life in me till the surgery table. I gave up in between, but reached exactly the time where God wanted me to be. And that's why I'm today glorifying his name.
Wow.
Amen.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing. We'll take one more. Anyone else? Yeah, down that way. Sure.
I had to say about the tithe. When I was small, I was grade 8, so I did tuition. From that tuition, I only sometimes I get 100 rupees or 200 rupees. From that, I used to give the tithes every month in the church.
Okay.
My sister and me. Now, by God's grace, God give me everything now.
Yeah.
Big car, big house, and one more thing I also say. When I was 11 or 12 years, my pastor told me, every day come to church, you will get the blessing. And he show me one verse. I don't know, I forget that verse. I will show you the good country, means nice country, holy country, means good place. So that time we don't have money to go to the church. Okay, but somehow every Sunday, till now, I try to go to the church, and I think that blessing God gave me, that's why I'm in Dubai.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so just for time purposes, we keep moving. The next one, prophetic words. So have all of you had someone prophesy over you? How many of you have had that? Can you put your hand up so we know? Yeah, most of you have had that. Who's never had a prophetic word? You have had one, yeah? Oh, last night. So everyone, including, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Elizabeth. You had a prophecy as well, right? So I want you to think of 1, 2, or 3 of the most significant words that stay in your head that someone prophesied over you, okay? 1, 2, or 3. Ultimately, we want 3, but if you get 1 at least. There was a guy that I actually met who's from Dubai. I met him in Kerala. He gave me a word 3, 4 years ago. And that's a word that has stuck with me, and I know it's a word for the rest of my life, So let God highlight to you One, two, or three prophetic words that you're like, man, yeah, that word. What did they say? Did they highlight something? Did that word speak to you about your future? What did it show you about your future, that prophetic word? Anyone who hasn't shared want to share?
Working with children and women, um, particularly who are not of the same faith, and working with different women who are part of like royal families, working in deliverance and influencing. Um, I don't know about the deliverance. I'm always scared of something, but
Yeah, cool. Anyone else who hasn't shared much want to say something?
I have a prophetic word that's encouraging me, which I am seeing right now
Yeah.
in my life, that I'll always travel to other nations,
Okay,
which
nice.
I don't know, and I'll be leading men and women, giving them that hope they can make it through.
Nice. Very cool. Anyone else? Take one more. Yeah. Yeah, you can go and then she can go. Yeah. Do you want to pass her the mic, Elizabeth?
Actually, I am planning to give that IELTS exam. So I know I am not good in English, but Pastor told me you will get good marks. So I believe I will get.
Yeah. We agree with you. There we go.
Actually, it was prophesied that from September 2022
Yep.
that I would start moving into new things in my life,
Mm.
and actually things started for things which I was struggling, like it's just started falling into place.
Okay.
And this man of God, he prophesied that you're going to get a job. 3.5 years, I actually applied 488 application
Whoa.
rejections, and then suddenly a door supernaturally opened where I have not applied for.
Yeah.
And he had actually prophesied the how my office is going to look.
Wow.
It is to be gray. He said that it would be a gray and white office, and exactly that is where
Wow.
it has come to pass.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, prophetic words, they also give you clues, they give you direction. And, the Bible says to wage war with your prophecies, right? Paul says wage war with it. So, there are times when if things aren't lining up or things aren't looking the way where maybe I feel discouraged or, I'm starting to go down a disappointment route, I like to go back to some of these words. That's why I have some of them recorded on my phone. And when I'm lying down in bed, I'll just play that and let the word come back in there, and so you start encouraging your own soul. So it's important for you to know the 1, 2, or 3 prophetic words that are solid. And if you've not had one, before you leave, you can have one, We can pray for each other and give you one. Okay, now the last part is your wiring. This is how God made you. One of the problems in the body of Christ is we're always trying to make other people like us, or we're trying to be like other people, instead of just loving people the way they are and you being how you are, okay? So you've been wired a certain way. So I want you to write this question. What do I love? What do I love? And underneath that, you got 60 seconds to write down, what do you love about life? About anything in life, what do you love? All right, 60 seconds. Write all the things that you're like, I love these things. What do you love? Don't overthink, just write it out. What do you love? And it could be anything. You love sleeping, write sleeping. Right? It could be anything. What do you love? got 30 seconds. Everything that you love. 15 seconds. 4, 3, 2, boom. Okay. Underneath that, you're writing the next question. What do I hate? And hate is a strong word, and I'm using it on purpose. What do I hate? Okay? And there's all kinds of things. You might hate injustice. You might hate poverty. You might hate abortion. You might hate broken families. You might hate abuse. Don't write generic things like, I hate the devil. Like, you know what I mean? You might hate control. You might hate misunderstanding. What do you hate? There might be some things that you have known and hated your whole life. Like even as a kid, it just annoyed you. You really didn't like something. Twenty seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, underneath that, you're going to write what I observe. Okay, so you're writing what I observe. I like to say what you observe is where you should serve. You know, usually in churches, people go, oh, there's no children's ministry. I noticed that because I'm the one that's going to actually create that, you know. Or I wish my church did more for broken women. The reason I'm seeing that problem is because I have the solution, right? What you observe is where you should serve. So in this one, what I observe, I want you to write about the problems that you see in your life. And not necessarily with you, but in your life. What problems are you observing in your life? Okay, 60 seconds. All right, so it's not your personal life. What are you observing around you? What problems are you observing in your spheres of influence? What's your friend's name? Okay. Hopefully she's okay. Hopefully she's just gone to the loo and not anything. Yeah. No, I was just wondering where Oreva? Was that her name? Oreva? Yeah. Do you want to just check to see if she's alright? What you are observing. 15 seconds. These are all giving you clues, guys. These are all giving you clues. All right. I'm going to throw a next one in there. What time do we have to stop? Like, you don't know? Like 8 minutes? Some of you have to go? Are you guys, what time do you guys have to go? Yeah, so normally, that's why it's a 2-day workshop, because I'm having to drill down too quickly. Normally, I wouldn't drill into you so quickly. We would slowly let it out. And in the second day, it would just be, you know, but I only have 3 hours. So I'm just like, all right, all right, all right. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it. I think you guys are all right. So I want you to write this down, okay? 1 million, like dollars, $1 million annually, okay? This is per year. $1 million annually. You want to write that down. And underneath, if you were getting $1 million every year, what would you do with your time? I want to know what moves would you make? What would you do? Like next week, you sign a contract and you get your first million, and every year you're going to get $1 million. Okay? But you have to decide what you're going to do with your time and your money. What would you do? It's a bigger question. I can afford to give you 3 minutes. $1 million is coming into your bank account every year. What would you do with your time? Now, some of you might be, I'll buy a house for my cousin, for my dad, let's stay away from some of that stuff. All right, because you're not going to buy a house for every relative. But what would you do? $1 million every year. Think big, think global. $1 million is like 2.5 million dirhams. 3.5 dirhams. Okay. I was using New Zealand dollars, but we'll go with the US. So that's a decent amount of money. What would you do? What would you build? What would you create? What would you set up? Where would you do this? But we don't have time to go into the power of imagination, but maybe during the week we get to do that. But when you start to see these kind of things, opportunities start to show up for you to walk into them. Right? Some people build orphanages. Some people build businesses. Some people create projects for the poor. Your minute and a half, 1 million every year. What would you do with your money? This is giving you a clue of what God has put inside you. "45 seconds. Tara, can you put the next slide? I just want to see what it is. Yeah. We'll go back and then we'll. Yeah. "15 seconds. 1 million. Do you know God has way more money than that, by the way? But one of the reasons that God isn't funding things for believers is because believers aren't in alignment with what He's doing. It's very easy for you to receive funding from heaven when you're fulfilling what heaven wants to do. You know, very easy. Then you start maturing and now God can trust you with more and more and more and more. You know, when David killed Goliath, he didn't just kill a giant and save a nation. David walked into a whole new realm of life. Do you know what his reward was after he killed the giant? Anybody remember? What did David get after he killed Goliath? He married the king's daughter, so he got a wife. Yeah. What else did he get?
No, I said I didn't know that.
You didn't know that? Yeah, he got the king's daughter. David's whole life changed. This, yeah. Yeah. He got the sword of the giant, he got the head of the giant, and he got land. He got given land. His whole life changed. This is the thing, is when you start walking out your assignment, your personal life starts to go through the roof. You know, so you don't even know, as you engage your assignment, you don't even know what you're about to walk into, you know, how amazing it can be. So I've just gone through with you all these clues that you now have in your book that I recommend you take home and you start engaging God to ask Him in this season, what are you doing? You know, not what I want to do, what are you doing? Are you with me? Some of us, we want to do what He's going to do in 2030. We want to do that today. And so then we live in disappointment till 2030. When I meet people who say, oh, I had a breakthrough, and then their next breakthrough is like 6 months later, 1 year later, 1.5 years later, I know they're moving at their pace because God doesn't wait that long to get you breakthroughs. He's the God of breakthrough. You can go from breakthrough to breakthrough to breakthrough daily if you're living in His movement. Are you with me? So if you go home and you go, man, God's highlighting this thing to me, the last thing you want to ask, and you want to write this down, is what is my next step? What is my next step? As a coach, I train all my clients to learn this, TNS, to master the next step. If you're going to climb a mountain, you're going to climb that mountain one step at a time. Right? Anything you do begins with your next step. So you want to ask God, what's your next step? Just like Rachel ends up sewing, then it leads her into business. She's a full-blown entrepreneur now. If God had said to her, you're going to have this business that's going to make millions of dollars and it's going to look like this, she'd have been like, started with a needle. Now it looks like cha-ching, But actually through her business, a lot of amazing things happening for people too. So I've given you these clues and I'm trusting you to incubate them with the Lord. Anybody got any questions? Anything you want? The next step. I train all my clients in this, TNS, the next step. Just take your next step. No matter how hard it is, how bad it is, all of us can take our next step. How scary it is, just take your next step, one step. Any questions? No? Just a lot of thinking faces. Hopefully. Is there a continuation of these sessions? You're going to have to ask the boss over there. What do you say? Yes and amen. Yeah, we'll do something. Do you want to go to the next the photos? I just want to show you some of the people. So her name's Heidi. Heidi does life with us now. Heidi went through a real hard time with her self-worth because of her childhood, things like that, and she used to self-harm and all kinds of stuff. And at the She Is Rising, she was talking about how she got delivered and free of so many wrong patterns. And Heidi actually, when I first started coaching her, she couldn't even look me in the eye because that's how her upbringing was. So she would get on the Zoom phone call, and I would talk to half of Heidi because she didn't feel comfortable to even let herself be seen, That was the beginning, and what we had to do was just find her next step. So as I'm poking and prodding, I find out that Heidi likes baking, and she's really good at baking. So I'm like, what do you bake? And she makes these bretzels, right? Pretzels and bread put together, these bretzels. I'm like, what kind of bretzels can you make? And so she started making these salted caramel ones and these rock salt ones. And I was like, do you think you could sell some? And she's like, sell? Anyway, long story short, she ended up selling them in her neighborhood. And she began this little business. And Heidi completely changed as she just engaged her assignment. Confidence, look at her face, smiling, looking up, talking in public. Heidi would have never done any of that. So what we do is we try and change people, and God is like, if you just do your next assignment, your next step, the transformation will automatically come. So that was Heidi. She's 20, 21 years old. Tara, can we go to the next one? Her name is Letu. Letu was a mom of 5 when she came into our circle. She did some coaching, and she ended up writing a book while she was pregnant with her 6th kid and had 5 children. You know how many people I meet, they go, I can't write a book, I don't have time. She's a mom of 5, pregnant with the 6th, and she wrote her book and published her book. And the book is called It's Okay to Be a Mom. And her message is to Christian women who think that being a mom is substandard. The whole message is around her story of it's okay to be a mom. Should we go to the next one? That's Rosalina. Rosalina has a corporate job, and she ended up starting a catering business. In her culture, the culture she comes from really opposes women doing well in business, in the corporate world. And so she had to walk through a lot of paradigm shifting to step into her successful catering business. So in this picture, she actually got up and she sang a song. You know that This Is Me? You know that song? From The Greatest Showman. You guys know that? Yeah, This Is Me. She sang that publicly, and yeah, it was a great moment for her. But I'm just giving you examples of women just taking their next step, not having it all figured out, just the next step. Can we go to the next one? Just giving Tara a workout there. This is Frances. We call her Auntie Frances. Auntie Frances is 67. Auntie Frances is like a regal, not delicate, delegate. Delegate? What am I trying to say here? I forgot English. Anyway, she has so much authority. She wrote a book called Libby Heals. And this book was just on a little girl who got healing in her heart, which was part of her story. So she writes this book, she publishes it, nobody knows her, and 3 or 4 months later, a girl shows up at her door selling cookies. Do you guys do that here? Girls Guide cookies? No? So they do fundraising, right? So they show up, and so she says, oh, come in. She's buying these cookies. And the girl sees this book on the side, and it says Libby Heals, and she's like, oh, how do you have that book? And she's saying that to Auntie Frances. So Auntie Frances is like, I wrote that book. And the girl is like, really? And so Auntie Frances is like, how do you know? And she's like, oh, my teacher's been using this book at school. And so for the last 2 months, the students, young kids, have been going through her book like a curriculum, getting healing in their hearts. And she didn't even know. Just her writing her story, taking her next step, publishing a book. You see? It's amazing how much things can happen for you. You just take your next step. Tara, can you go to the next one? That is Susan Spenceley. She's from Waco, Texas. Susan, as we journeyed through, her passion for quilting. You guys understand quilting? Right? I'm like, quilting? Who even does quilting? When her passion for quilting comes out, she makes these beautiful quilts, and then she's like, I feel like I should create a social media channel with quilting. I'm like, who's going to watch a video of someone quilting? Anyway, she starts this channel. Her channel blows up. She's got thousands of subscribers. They all love her tutorials, but now she has a tribe of women that she's walking with who came in through quilting, but now they're getting much more than that. And that's just her taking her next step. So she had to learn how to film a video, how to edit a video. She already knew how to quilt, but she had to learn how to put it out there. She was scared to speak, how she's going to speak, what she's going to share. Do you understand? But just taking the next step, now she's on this whole other journey, and she's got like 7,000 or 8,000 subscribers, and it's counting, it's still growing. She's doing amazing. Is there any others? Okay, I think that's the last one. That's Lana. So Lana is a South African who lives in New Zealand. Lana's amazing. Her husband, Conrad, we're really good friends. My computer's going to die. Lana does these retreats. Oh, can you go back? Lana does these retreats, healing retreats, holistic retreats, where people that are burnt out, women that are burnt out come. And the whole purpose of that retreat is just that they feel loved, that they feel rejuvenated. So she does pampering there. They do some kind of massage there, facials there. They relax in the pool, right? And so because she has seen so many women break down, right? What you observe is where you should serve. That ended up becoming part of her journey, starting all these retreats. So that's the last example I want to give you. If you go to the next slide, this is just what you guys wrote at the beginning. I took some notes just because I thought I'll answer some of them at the end. But I think we covered most of your stuff. Would you say? Yeah? So expectations, we kind of went through all of that. Do you want to go to the next one, bro? On purpose, right? Recognizing your purpose. We talked about that. How do you begin? Take your next step. Activate. We went through all of that. How to be sure and know if it's God's will. We didn't touch on that. I can quickly touch on that if you want. Right? One of our problems is that we've been taught so much Christianity outside of intimacy. So I have 3 daughters at home who completely trust me. They have so much faith in me. But I never sat them down and did a lesson on faith. They didn't study faith. Are you with me? But they have so much faith in me. How did they have this faith in me now? How come my children have faith in me? What do you think? Your actions. My actions? Yeah. But how come they developed a faith in me? Relationship. They just did life with me. Do you think my children are perfect? No. Have they made lots of mistakes? You know, my youngest one, she makes a mistake and then she gives me this cute smile, almost like my smile is going to override the mistake, Papa. Like, I broke this thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I have a cookie? Right? Children, they rely on the love of the parent. We're supposed to be like that with God. But we try and act all perfect for God, running around with our nappies all soiled, trying to be so perfect. You don't need to carry that pressure. Can I tell you that instead of you worrying about, I'm going to get better at hearing from God and doing for God, if you learn how to trust God's goodness, even when you make a mistake, He will sort it out. When my kids make a mistake, I sort it out. Are you with me? And so one of the things with this, how do I know? How can I be sure? It's because we have a fear of getting it wrong. And if you are one that's worried about getting it wrong, instead of trying to deal with that, you can start to just let God be God in your life. You are probably going to get it wrong. You're probably going to get a lot of things wrong. Do you know that? And it's okay. That's why you have God. Even when you make a mistake, He turns it around for your good. Does that make sense? And so even in my journey, like, how do I be sure? Okay. Number one, I know in my heart, I want to know God's will. Number two, I know that He is good. Done. Are you with me? So hopefully that helps some of you. Improve your faith. If you want to increase your faith, use it more. It's a muscle. Use it more. Take some risks. Jump. So that next step sometimes is just a big jump. It doesn't even matter if when you jump you're going to cry, you're going to kick, you're going to scream. It's all right as long as you jump. As long as you jump. Do you want to go to the next one? And then we went into these fears, and these are really deep, right? Like we don't have time for all this stuff. So maybe what we do is just any questions, anything you want to bring up before we wrap up, and I hand over to Tara. Yeah. Do you want to grab the mic? Okay.
We actually spoke about self-worth.
Yeah.
So I just want to give an example. So I'm a single mother and I have 3 children. So one of my daughters, she's all the time, okay, they've seen me strong, they've seen me weak, they've seen, through the journey that we've gone. But every time, I see her, she will come to, my nose is not perfect, my this is not perfect, my that's not perfect. So how do you kind of build that self-worth in them? Because I remember you speaking about your kids. So what do we do so that we can build that and they don't have that same thing, okay, you know what, I'm not good enough.
Yeah. So self-worth is an interesting thing, and it comes back to value. Last night, some of us talked about value, Who do you allow to give you value? So this nose issue, like I hated my nose. I hated a lot of things about my body, And I hated them because some person told me it was wrong. Like as a kid, I had no problem, So somewhere, somebody said to me, bro, that's not a good nose, or that's not a good face. And I was like, oh, you're right, bro. Oh, I have a bad face. So when it comes to self-worth, it's always back to who do I allow to determine my value? And so your children especially, like my kids, it's easier for me because they're young, so we're starting really young. But if she's already a teenager, so this is past the point of you're going to tell her how it works. Now she's learning value by watching how you value yourself. Children, they don't learn what we teach. They become who we are. They learn a lot from who we are. They become like us. So if I have a self-worth issue, my kid will automatically learn that from me, So my recommendation to you would be first to go, who validates you? And then to have that conversation with her, not about her, but about you. A lot of my conversations with my kids are not, you should be like this, you should be like that. They're actually, I am like this. I learned this. I learned that. And I leave it. And then they get to take that. You know what I mean? And so value is an interesting subject. Like value is always determined by the price somebody wants to pay for something. So like an iPhone that's worth like $1,500 in New Zealand. But if that was the only iPhone in New Zealand, it would be worth probably $30,000 because someone's going to pay that for it, So your value can be determined by your nose, by your legs, by your earrings, by the likes and followers you have on social media, or by the blood of Jesus. And you get to choose that. He already determined your value because He paid the blood. So I would begin that conversation. And I think one of the ways you can do that is by asking your daughter, uh, how, when, how many things are you going to allow to influence your value, you know? And usually when you're getting people to think for themselves, they know where to go. It's when you tell them what to think that there's a problem, you know? So a lot of what we've done tonight is actually me just opening up a subject, but you are taking what you want. Like, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you what to think, but I'm opening it up so you can do where you feel led. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool. Anyone else? Anything you want to say, bring up? You're welcome. It's been great. I didn't know how it's going to go. I didn't know what women in Dubai are like, you know. But you guys have been pretty open. And even when we were sharing at the beginning, you were open, which is really cool. So thank you. Thank you for coming. I hope you got some value. I'll be praying over tonight. So tonight, if you have a dream, you know, or an angel shows up in your room, it won't be an accident. You know what I mean? Or suddenly tomorrow you get a phone call and an opportunity opens up. It won't be an accident. You know, God's going to start moving this thing now. Awesome. Tara, cool. Huh? Cool. Tara, you going to wrap it up? What are you doing?
Right, we got some sandwiches outside. I don't know if you're hungry. Are you hungry? Zephan listens to the song called Are You Hungry? It's my favorite song. Anyway, so I just want to talk about, let's try this clicker thing. Does it work? Dang, it works. Okay. All right. So I want to talk about this very, very quickly. Joseph touched on so much, all right? But I know those of you who are friends with me and Manisha, you probably have heard me yap about this to death. But I feel so strongly about this because I don't want you to leave this room feeling like you're alone. Am I making sense? Because you got all this unpacking to do and all this pursuing of your purpose and all of that. You have to do it by yourself. And I think everyone in this room knows what it feels like, right? And Manish and I have done that for a long time. I know what it's like being without a job. So I really empathize with someone like Sister Kathy, right? So 1 year after Manish and I got married, we were both without jobs for like more than a year. Some of you know our story. But my point is that that journey could have been less bumpy if you really operated or understood what this meant. So of all the things that Jesus could pray for, in John 17, he said this. He said, I do not pray for these alone, but also for those who will believe in me through their word, that they may be one, that they may also be one in us, that the world may believe that you sent me. Now, it says two things there. It says believe and know. Now, if I want to just ask all of you, right? So, if anyone were to ask you, or if you would have done a Menti earlier, and I would have asked you a question, how would the world know and believe that Jesus was sent by the Father? What would you say? I'm sure we would have come up with amazing answers. Workshops like this, maybe. More workshops with Joseph, maybe. Great answers. But here's the thing. He prayed for this. And he leaked out the answer, the secret here. That people will know and believe that Jesus was sent by the Father when they see our unity. And so if there's anything that we should pursue, it should be this. And if there's anything I can also just leave, a thought I would want to leave with you is that at the end of the day, all of us, we're all from different churches. And something I was telling Sister earlier during the break as well, I believe with all my heart that our purposes are, whether we realize it or not, interconnected. And so sometimes some of the delays or disappointments or whatever we see is because we don't realize. So Sister Sandra has left the room. Her husband's one of my best friends. I remember when I didn't have a job for 9 months, I was only sending my CV to people in my church. And he was going to another church. But we were at one point in the same church. He called me and he said, hey bro, I heard through somebody that you've been without a job for more than 6 months. I said, yeah. He said, how come you didn't tell me, number one? Number two, we are friends, right? How come you didn't send me your CV? And it hit me in that moment that I thought and I actually believed that my breakthrough, my next step, whatever, was only going to come through people in my church. Does that make sense? I don't know about you, if you've ever fallen into that trap, but I spent 10 years, almost 10 years in that trap. I would like to request you do not make the mistake that I made. All right? So I want you to leave this room thinking not that you're alone. You have your church, great, but there's a wider body of Christ, and you have no idea how and where and through whom purpose will be unlocked and you would go to the next step. You know, and sometimes it's through collaboration that God breathes. If you've read Psalm 133, I love that psalm because it talks about unity and coming together and how God pours out, right? He commands a blessing and stuff. So I want you to think about that. Last exercise for you before you leave today is it working? Please work. Dang. Oh, thank you, bro. Oops. Yeah, PPT mode. There's a final mentee I have for you. Don't hate me. Final mentee. But I think, let's try. Oh, there you go. All right. So we got something awesome coming. What's happening? What's happening this week? Does anyone you know? Come on, ladies, talk to me, somebody. What's happening this week? Women's Day? Really? I didn't know it's this week. Bro, that was no coincidence. I didn't know Women's Day was this week. Well, anyway, so March 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, we're going to have sessions with Joseph, Dr. Amos. How many of you know Dr. Amos? Oh boy, Dr. Amos, all right? We're going to have him, and we're going to have another amazing man of God by the name of Charles Opio. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about this, okay? Can you read this with me on the count of 3? 1, 2, 3, go. But first, above everything else, be concerned about God's kingdom and his righteousness, what has his approval, what he requires of you, and all these things will be given to you as well. Newsflash. I read a beautiful quote, or I'm a quotes buff. Joseph knows, he probably laughs. He's probably laughing by now. No, you're not laughing yet. I'm a quotes buff. I love quotes. And I discovered some amazing quotes by this prophet and man of God by the name of Graham Cook. And he said something. He said, do you know more about how church operates than how kingdom operates? If you know more about how church operates than how the kingdom operates, there's a problem. And coming from a Hindu background, I'll tell you, I spent the first 10 years of my Christian life knowing more about how church operates, but not necessarily about how kingdom operates. And I feel like there's some learning to do. And for those of us in the room who have experienced some stress and some strain and some pain and frustration with delays and stuff like that, it's because I don't think we have fully understood this verse and unpacked this. We have not fully understood and unpacked this. So what are we going to do? We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some fun. From March 9th to 12th, we're going to be here. Every evening, we're going to be here. Joseph's going to be here. Dr. Amos is going to be here. Charles is also going to be here. We're going to have a blast in unpacking what this whole thing called the kingdom is all about. Because wherever Jesus went, as Joseph said earlier, he preached the gospel of the kingdom. If I would ask you, what is the gospel of the kingdom? What would your answer be? I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just giving you some food for thought. When it says that he went from city to city, preaching the gospel of the kingdom, what does that even mean? It's something to think about. Food for thought, all right? But you know what? There's other food, not better, lesser food outside, which you're going to have. Just nothing much. This is something simple, just to keep your tummy quiet till you get home. But this is happening. Can I beg you, implore you, request you? This is actually going to be life-changing. I actually spoke to a friend on the phone and said, it's going to be destiny-defining. And this friend was like, dude, why do you use such heavy words? I'm like, is that heavy? No, it's true. Coming for this is going to be destiny-defining. I just wanted to share just a couple of final drops with you. My dad went to jail when I was 19. I dropped out of college. I still don't have a degree. I still don't have a license. Randy, I'm working on it, bro. This will be the year I get a license. Anyway, but I went through a crazy time. I didn't know the Lord then, right? I hope you're leaving this room um, um, as I'm leaving this room. Because I learned from Joseph. I was saying to them, like, maybe I should do a men's workshop too. Randy, let's do a men's workshop too, bro. The men need this too. But what I'm trying to say is I'm 41. I just turned 41. But I'm leaving this room today saying there were dreams that died when I was 19 and dropped out of college and dad was in jail and all that. There are dreams that died. Sure, I got saved. But after getting saved, unfortunately, as grateful as I am to the church and the family of God, I still buried dreams. I wasn't encouraged to dream again. Because sometimes in the whole dying thing, you actually kill your dreams also, not realizing there's some things that God has given and He wants you to pursue. Am I yapping too much? Yes, I am. Bottom line, please, spread the word about this. Somebody needs this. I think you do. I'm sure I will. Last mentee thing, I swear, I promise, holy God, have mercy. 5 minutes. Can you give me 5 minutes for the mentee? Okay. Because this is going to be the next steps. This is not going to be the end. This is just the beginning. Get out your phones very, very quickly. Because we're going to build on this. Ladies, we're going to build on this. Get out your phones very quickly. And let's go for this. The top 5 urgent needs of women in the city. We have work to do, but we're going to do this together. The top 5 urgent needs of women in the city. Keep them coming, ladies. That's good. Top 5 urgent needs. Top 5 urgent needs of women in the city. I'm already seeing some common words there. This is so good. All right. Okay. We're going to definitely share this with all of us. We're going to meet again and do this. Um, are you done, ladies? Can I move to the next one? Okay. All right. In what ways can women partner and collaborate to meet the needs of women in the city? It's all about working together. God's going to breathe on what we do together. Any ideas that come to your mind, just put it out there. Put it out there. In what ways can women partner and collaborate to meet the needs of women in the city? Opportunities like this, frequent touch points, okay? Anything else? Parenting classes, marriage classes, support groups, workshops, all right? Keep them coming, keep them coming. We regularly have an agenda for women's needs, support each other in business, form a network, give each other time, help in time of need, pray for each other, share with each other, counseling. Anyone else still typing? Workshops on rendering services like job opportunities, counseling, healing sessions. All right, okay. Pray for them, support groups, networking. Wow, so many common words in there. So many common words in there. This is good. Last one for tonight, ladies. Would you be confident to invite women in the city to workshops? If yes, what type of events, workshops would you be willing to invite women to? A bit repetitive, but go for it. Go for it. What type of events, workshops would you be willing to invite women to?
Are we done? So we'll meet and connect to brainstorm on these topics that we discussed, and we'll plan on how we can go about doing these things. Yeah, we'll keep you updated, Tara and myself. Okay, there are some little sandwiches outside for everyone. So on your way out, please take one. Okay. Thank you for coming. God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manisha.